Blades Ramble are proudly supported by our main channel sponsor, My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information or follow the link in the description below. And seeing as this is 3MB, we're proudly sponsored by VMB Auto Centres at Handsworth. They're still offering that amazing deal of 50% off your MOT when you let them know that you're a Rambler. Call them now on 0114 322 4446. Thank you to VMB Auto Centres for their continued support of the Ramble.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and this is the three Mardy Blades. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Blades Ramble. How are we all? How are we doing? Is everything well? This new software is going like a dream now. We are smooth as silk. So we're here to talk about all the goings-on at Sheffield United. And as this is 3MB, I'm joined by my two pals. First up, it's Paul the Man Mountain.
This is the view from the mountain, with a heart so pure it's astounding. Man Mountain, strong and true. What a man, what a view.
Look at that, mate. Seamless. Absolutely seamless. How are you doing, pal?
Very professional, James. Very professional.
Look at this. Look at this. Nameplates and everything.
Oh, mate, I love the nameplate. Can't beat it. Can't beat a nameplate, if that's what they're called nowadays.
We feel a bit incomplete, though, don't we, doing this show? Just the two of us, mate. What do we need?
Well, what is it? The trifecta, whatever you call it.
Yes.
Let's get him in without further ado.
Get him in.
David knows, he really knows where the wind, I know whispers blow. Smelly break, he's in the know. David knows, steals the show.
Dave the Note. Yeah, you're on your own there. I was dancing. Mate, but...
On your own, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, Dave.
Not for the first time.
Somebody's got to
Tell you
do
what, that new intro is absolutely brilliant if you watch it twice back to back.
it. It is.
Top tip.
Look, you've got to have a trial run at these things. Otherwise, things could go wrong, and we never want that to happen, do we? So it's always worth a trial run. You know that. You know that. I made you think that we weren't going to do one, didn't I? But really, we did one. We did one anyway. Either that or I pressed the wrong button and we didn't go live when we should have done. Anyway, I've been told to stop dwelling on things that go wrong because I'm not supposed to tell people, but we are an honest channel, as we say. So, yeah, I pressed the right button in the end, and here we are, hopefully, if everybody can see or hear us. So, welcome, everybody, to the Blades Ramble. This is now a weekly show, which I'm absolutely delighted about. It may have to move, and I say that. We've all got our own individual commitments coming up over the summer. So a couple of times you might get two Mardy Blades. A couple of times, depending on whether Mrs. Ramble allows me to even do it, they might be recorded, that sort of thing. But obviously going forward, the plan is to do these over the long term as a weekly thing. So thank you to the lads for agreeing to that, because it's an absolute pleasure to be on screen with you. And I want you to talk to me, lads, about what has been happening at the lane, because we haven't really heard from you since we made our first signing. Tyler Bindon is in the building. Which one of you wants to go first in terms of how you rate the signing? There's been a little bit of mixed feedback, which we'll always get, unless we're signing Gibbs White again, then I think, or Illiman, I think we're always going to get a bit of mixed feedback in terms of some are saying it's a great deal and that it's a really hot prospect that's coming through, which I'm in that boat, if I'm completely honest. Others are saying that why is it just a loan? If this kid ain't good enough to get into Forest side, why are we bothering? I'm not entirely sure about that, if I'm honest. Dave, Paul, who wants to go first?
Go on, Paul.
Yeah.
Your face said it all there, mate.
Well, we can't get in the Forest team with probably arguably the best centre-back pairing or one of the best in the Premier League last season.
I'm only telling you what I've heard, what I've seen and read.
Well, from what I've read, and again, I hands are up. I confess, I haven't seen him play. I don't watch Reading's matches.
You'll like him, mate. You'll like him.
Well, this is what I've heard. A lot of the Reading fans are absolutely waxing lyrical about this kid as being a star of the future. It makes quite a bit of sense to progress him on to the next level at his age in the Championship. He's worked with Selles before. He obviously thinks he's a terrific talent if he thinks he can come up to the next level and do that. It doesn't make any sense for Notts Forest to give us a clause on him,
No, it doesn't.
because he might slide into their team next season, depending on the season he has with us. So it's I mean, passing. I was shaking my head when you said it to me earlier, actually, about the fans. I mean,
It's not everybody. Don't get me wrong, but I think some people's expectations of what we can expect to bring in, and look, I'm sure we will go a bit more high ticket, and I still think this is a really good sign. So I don't mean to dumb it down. I'm sure there will be a couple of statement signings, should we say, things that will get the fan base excited. But the fact that we brought in a young lad, yes, he's not tested in the Championship. I understand that. That would be a genuine sort of, tentative to get excited about him because he hasn't been tested at this level. But to say, on one hand, it's either useless because he can't get in for his team, or the other hand, it's unambitious because he's on loan. The majority, I have to say, appear really pleased with this, which is exactly what we want to go for. And we always try and give all opinions. So by no means am I putting a negative spin on it, but
I mean, and again, what I would say is if people have seen him and have been unimpressed, then they've every right to have their say on it. If they haven't seen him play and they're judging it based on the fact that he was on loan at Reading last season, I think it's a strange position to take. You've got to give him a chance. You got to see him play. And we all knew. Like we signed Rob Holding, some people might have been happy with Rob Holding, obviously because of the pedigree, because we've all seen him play lots and lots of times before at a really high level. And he couldn't get in the team, could he? So I'm fairly sure that this lad has been signed to play, and take him on to the next level. And if he is as good as some of the Reading fans say he is, then we've struck a bit of gold, really. And we'll have to wait and see. Loans can be one or the other, can't they? They can be Morgan Gibbs-White sort of success. You can have semi-success, and you can have people who just don't fit. And we've had a bit of everything over the last sort of 3 or 4 years in our squad. I just think we've really got to give the kid a chance. And
absolutely, mate. And we will, won't we? And to be, it's a bit like everything else. It's like when Sayers came in himself. A lot of the fan base were like, "What is this guy? I'm not going." We saw we saw a few. I'm not going again, and all this sort of thing. That is an immediate gut reaction to these sort of things. And if Tyler Bindon comes in, starts his first 5 games and looks a Rolls Royce, we'll all be on the same page, won't we? And we'll all be supporting United, whatever happens, but we'll all be on the same page if he comes in and is, all will be forgiven then, I suppose, in terms of some people judging him before he's even pulled a shirt on for us. Dave, what's your thoughts, pal, on Bindon coming in?
Yeah, I think it can be quite human nature to dislike what you don't know. I'm like Paul. I've not watched him play before, so I don't know anything about him apart from what we've read, what the Reading fans have said, how well the Forest fans seem to think of him, even though they've not seen him play in their shirt yet. And I think it probably shows the direction that we're going to go down as a club in terms of this more of the youth. We could have done the probably safe Championship option of Harry Darling. Then you wonder what happens if we go to the Premier League. This lad seems destined for there, and the way the Forest are going, the top end of it as well. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes if it works out. But Paul's quite right. We've had plenty that have worked and plenty that we expected great things of Raksaki, of Rob Holding, of Harry Clark, just from last season that didn't quite work out. So we don't know until until we start playing. But on paper, it reads very good. And again, he's right. We've got to give him a chance and see how he fits in. I like the fact he's played left centre back before. I think that gives flexibility.
Agreed.
I like the fact he's played for Selles before. So there's a player that is going to come in and understand the new manager's way of working, which might help the rest of the lads, or at least ease that bedding in period. So yeah, on paper, which is all we can base it on at the moment, it seems smart.
I agree. I think I always sort of veer back to like Gibbs White, 'cause it's an obvious loan example, but sometimes loans like this work for everybody. I'm not saying Tyler Bindon is unattainable for Sheffield United, whereas I think Gibbs White was in terms of his ceiling, and he's obviously started to prove that now anyway. But sometimes a loan can work for all parties. If he comes in and does a brilliant job for Sheffield United and is a part of a promotion-winning side, which is obviously the aim for all involved, United have benefited from having a great player in the 11. The player's obviously developed into a top championship player and possibly a good Premier League prospect. And Forest have massively upped their value on their own asset and will be obviously potentially integrated into their own side. So I see the benefits of everything, of all three parties, and that is the ideal situation with a loan.
And the money.
And the money, mate. Absolutely,
It'll be a lot cheaper than Rob Holding for wages. That's for
certainly
sure.
will be. He certainly will be. It'll be a fiscally prudent deal, I believe. But look at that, mate. I'm a businessman now, mate. I'm a businessman. Thank you, John Asquith, for leading me by the nose.
Fiscally prudent. You've never said that in your life.
No, and he never will again.
John Asquith never mentioned them words to me either, to be fair. So I was trying to think of something, and that was the first thing that popped into my head. But I've thrown myself completely now. But there is, there's nothing to say that should all those three things be achieved, he improves as a player, or just comes in and is an absolute great player to begin with. We get promoted, and Forest continue to kick on and improve their asset as in Bindon himself, but also their status as a club. There's no saying that he can break into their side. There is nothing saying we can't make this move a permanent move if it is a positive for all three parties involved at the end of the season. So I would never write it off anyway. I think, the fact that we're even in conversations to sign Dean Henderson when he ended up signing for another deal with Man United and all this sort of thing, but it just shows that when you're successful, dominoes can fall and things like that. So it doesn't mean the door's closed to a permanent deal later on, but he hasn't kicked a ball for United yet. He hasn't kicked a ball for us. So I'm interested in something that Paul briefly touched on. He's going to come into. I think he's come to play, and obviously that's why you sign him. It certainly should be why you sign your loan signings. We've talked about this before. Who does he come in for? Dave, Paul? I don't mind which one takes it first.
One of the centre backs.
Oh, right. Well, you're on screen now, so you've got to run with that.
It could be either, couldn't it? It's.
I think there'll be two new ones, personally.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, and we don't know what's going to happen with Anel.
No, we don't.
Are we going to get offers? Are we going to get offers that make it worthwhile? What does he want?
That's the key, innit? That's the key. Offers that make it work. I think we'll get offers. I think we'll be touting him out, to be honest. I think we'll sort of saying.
He's got to want to move as well. And I don't mean that as in, you could argue, well, if he wants to stay at United, he needs to sign a new contract. But whatever happens next, he's got to be happy with that move if he's moving on. And he may decide that the clubs that come in aren't the right ones for him, or that he wants to wait until next summer. And
that's exactly. There's a huge financial incentive for him to stay at United another year, isn't there? Because then he gets the equivalent of the transfer fee in his pocket rather than the club getting it that is potentially going to. So, or United getting it for him. So
I'd love him to stay. I'd love him to sign a new contract and stay. I think we have seen flashes of the best of him, and that player is in there with the right partner, the right way of playing. I think he's a great player, and I'd love him to stay for the record.
So I'm conscious that neither of you've both said neither of you have seen Bindon play, and he's a right-footed centre half, but can play either side, which obviously Chris Wilder was very strong on. It wasn't essential, but he was very heavy on wanting a left footer on left centre half, a right footer at right centre half. Same in the midfield too, if he could get that balance. So, with that said, I don't think Selles is going to have the same sort of, not necessarily be wedded to that, but it does give you that flexibility where Bindon could come in on the left of the two. He could play on the right because he's right-footed, and we know Anel can do a job at the left of the two as well. So, just because he's right-footed doesn't mean he comes in directly at right centre-back, does it? So, I think Jack Robinson's vulnerable here, and I've already had some comments from the last stream about, why do you keep banging on about Jack Robinson? And you're not like, it's just my opinion. And as I say, I try not to go too hard on Jack Robinson nowadays because everybody knows, but my opinion doesn't change. I think if we have an honest conversation about it, who's coming in for Jack Robinson this summer? Knowing that he's got a year left, is anybody going to come in and pay him 25 grand a week or whatever it is that he's on? If Chris Wilder goes in at Leicester, maybe there's half a chance. But nobody's coming in and paying money for Jack Robinson. And that should speak volumes, really, as to where we are. I'm like Paul. I think there's potentially going to be 2 centre-halves coming in. Ash Phillips may well still have legs. It's been noisy, then it's been quiet, then it were noisy again at the beginning of the week, and it's sort of quietened off again a little bit. But I'm sure we're still looking at centre-halves because we have to do, if only to think about what if Anel drops. If Anel goes, then we're back to square one, aren't we? So we certainly need at least 1 more, if not 2.
I'd like us to have 4 in the squad.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. Paul, what do you think happens? Who do you think he comes in for, pal?
I think he'll come in for one of them. I think I think that both of them won't be in the team. Yeah, I think the business will take over and Anel will be moved on, in my opinion. Also, I think Anel fits for me moving forward. If he was a part of a 3, personally, I think that's where I've seen him at his best. I don't think he's been as good as before he got injured. And yeah, I don't know if he fits what we might need if we went up. So I think that he'll be moved on for a fee. Personally, I think Jack Robinson. It's down to the manager, obviously. If there was some murmurings that Selles came to Bramall Lane and kind of targeted him and then identified him as a weak link, we don't know that really. It's kind of, we don't know what he thinks of him. He might think he's going to be the skipper for all we know. But no, I would imagine that we'll have a new pair of centre halves. It might be that Robinson sticks around and plays the third place and just comes in when we need him to, which he's done a good job at, to be fair, at times this season and previous seasons as well. So I wouldn't mind that at all. But I think Anel will get moved on because there's saleable value in Anel that they won't want to turn down. I think it'll be the best part of £5 million that the club know we need to reinvest. Dave, I reckon he's worth £5 million of somebody's money to take.
We paid 4 for him. Right, and he had a good season in the Champ. He was part of the worst defence in Premier League history, and he's in the last year of his contract. And you're expecting us to make a profit on him.
Yeah, I do. There's just because he's in the last year of his deal does not mean that people move on for nothing.
If the numbers are right, we've just made a couple of mil on Vinny, who had more on his contract. Yeah, and he's gone abroad.
Yeah, but we're not on about making a profit on him. I know that 5 mil would be a profit on him. We're on about in current market value. He's worth more than. Is he worth more than 4 or 5 million?
Is he?
Don't know. To be honest, no, I've said it out loud.
Has he proven it yet?
In flashes, yes, but consistency is a huge question mark.
So I think I know it's contradicting himself. I've just said I want him to stay, but I don't think he's shown enough to show he's worth £5 million with a year left in his contract.
I think it'll be ballpark that. I think that's what they'll be looking for. Ballpark.
They might be looking for it.
Yeah, I know. We're allowed to disagree, Dave. I think.
No.
I think if we moved him on, we'd be looking for about £5 million for him. Looking at what other players go for, we think he's probably one of the best in the Championship. Some people do, some people don't. And he can be, can't he? I think he's just. He might have. He's gone a bit stale for me. I feel like since his injury. I don't see the form. But the form of him at the start of the year with Suter, was outstanding. So it's kind of. He does show flashes of being that kind of player. And if he shows that form, and people see that form, and he's still well thought of around Europe, I get the feeling it would be a European club that might come in for him at that level. I don't see him going to another Championship team. I don't see him in the Premier League personally. So I think it would be a European sale. I think his name still holds a little bit of weight in Europe, to be honest. And I still think there'd be a saleable thing. Jayden Bogle went for more than 5 million, Dave. Lots of our United fans in the last year of his deal.
That's a fair point. Very fair.
Would have said that Anel's a better player than Bogle. A lot of them.
Very fair point.
Yeah, I'll accept that. Yeah, fair enough.
One thing I would say about Anel is I've completely forgot what I was going to say about him, to be honest. But so we'll move on because I'm sure it'll come back to me in a minute. Let's get some comments. Rob says, "Evening, boys. I hope you're all well. Season getting close to an excitement, and the excitement draws near. Just hope everyone gets behind Sayers and especially Bindon, as the negative homophobic comments are a disgrace up all the rambles." So I'll just touch very briefly on this. I've not seen a lot of it online. I have seen the backlash of people like Rob saying it's absolutely disgusting and abhorrent and not becoming of our fans of our club. Absolutely right. Homophobia is what year are we in? Not that it was ever acceptable anyway, but I don't know how anybody can speak so brazenly and be so negative. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't find the words to appropriately explain how thick some people must be to have these views in this day and age. And look, you're entitled to any opinion that you like, and we always express that on here. But the one thing is to be respectful. So if you feel a certain way, and it might be against the norm, but you feel like you're going to upset somebody by voicing that opinion, don't do it. Keep that to yourself. It's, we all have certain things that we think and may do or say, but you've got to be. It really frustrates me, stuff like this, because I think it's a bit sensationalist. That it's like people trying to get attention by poking at others. And just the long and short of it, people that aren't aware, Tyler Bindon's been the subject of some homophobic comments, apparently, on some of the social media sites. It won't surprise you that X is one of them. Do better. If you are one of those people, do better. It's not something we will ever condone, not only as a channel, as a fan base. It's not a Blades Ramble thing. It's a Sheffield United thing. What are you doing? Why do it? Why? It's like any other form of hate, if you like, and it's something that I don't expect you lads to come in and sort of, because it's not even worth it. It should be without. Go for it, Dave. Go for it, mate. You can probably.
I think you've been very. I don't want to say kind, or I'll be a bit more direct. I think. If you think that it's okay to go around abusing people for anything about them, absolutely. If you feel that someone's sexuality, their nationality, their religion, belief, whatever, makes a difference to you or to them or to anyone in this world, go and give your head a serious wobble. Go and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself what type of person you are. Because to be honest, if you're like that, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people who feel the same way. It just these things that make up who a person, is, but it doesn't affect you. Doesn't. If you just don't.
Well said, mate. Well
said. Are these United supporters?
We've no idea, Paul. To be fair, they're commenting on United stuff. Apparently, as I ain't gone looking for it. I've seen the backlash online about it. How can people, like Rob said here, how can people do it? The negative homophobic comments. I haven't seen the comments myself, but the fact that it's even being circulated that these sort of things are out there is absolutely abhorrent. And Dave's articulated it much better than I did. But not only as a channel would we say you're not welcome here. We don't want anything to do with you. If you are of that ilk, then we'd be happy for you to unsubscribe and not watch. The club will have the exact same stance. They work closely with organisations such as the Rainbow Blades, but also people that have all sorts of different interests and sort of things that they stand up for. You're not welcome. You're not welcome. Football's clearly not for you because life is not for you, and that is the way we are as a society nowadays. So I didn't want to take up as much time on this because I don't think the people that are participating in this sort of behaviour deserve that sort of spotlight. But it's if we cannot...
people who are receiving it do deserve the spotlight, though.
The people who are what? Sorry,
people who are on the receiving end of it
absolutely
do need the spotlight because they need the support.
And they need to know that everybody's behind them, and we certainly are here. So yeah, apologies to those that have had to.
Also, Jim, he's 20 years old, isn't he? He's 20.
Yeah,
20.
Something like that. He's a young lad, 19,
So
20.
to me, he's a kid.
It don't matter, does it, mate? It don't matter, and that makes it worse in a way. But it don't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter. But if you join a club, they're struggling. I have to watch what I say. But
I'm saying, mate, and it's hard to articulate it because it's mind-boggling that he's come to our club to try and help us do better. He's a professional footballer, wants to do his job and do it best he can for Sheffield United. And first thing he may see online is homophobia and negativity to his signing. It's absolutely disgusting. So anyway, we will move on from that because I think it's... Thank you to Rob. It's right that you raise it. It's right that we mention it. I'm not ashamed for mentioning it at all. In terms of, I just don't want to give them any undue attention that I don't think they deserve, to be honest. So, thank you, Rob. Starting us off on a serious but worthwhile topic to speak about there. Brett says, "Evening, guys. Just wanted to say, loving all the content. You're doing a top job. Can't wait for the start of the season. Determined to just enjoy it this year. Whatever. Up all the rambles. Join the Plats. Top man. Thank you, mate." Lewis says, "Evening, gents. Been looking forward to another 3MB. Assuming a 2. What's your centre-half pairing from what we currently have? And do you think we'll sign another?" We've briefly touched on that, Lewis, to be fair, mate. So I won't go over it again, but hopefully that's answered your question. I think we will. Up the ramble. Up the 3MB. Like and subscribe. I'm just going to reiterate as well that following some feedback from people as well that watch these shows, when it's me and a guest or me and a couple of guests or me and the lads doing 3MB or whatever it might be, we're not going to be able to read all the comments out. So it's not because we want to take a few subjects from you and we'll talk about it, what you want to talk about. So when it's me solo and we're doing watch-alongs or things like that, then I'll get through as many comments as I can, but I'm going to have to, not necessarily cherry pick, but I'm going to have to get through. I'll get through fewer comments tonight than I do normally. So David says, "Hi, the 3MB. I cannot believe reading some Blades comments already writing off Ruben, wanting him gone by November. I bet if we do really well, they'll be the ones hailing how great he is. Up the Blades, like and subscribe." Paolo is shaking his head already, mate. The floor is yours.
I'm struggling. I don't get it. I don't get it. If you support Sheffield United, why are you baying someone to fail? You haven't even started.
Because some people would rather be right, wouldn't they? Some people would rather be right.
I don't go on there and have to read it all. I think, oh my gosh, surely they're not United fans. Surely.
The thing is, and it's the same with the Bindon comments, and it's the same with these Sayers comments. It is the vocal minority. These are the corners of United fan bases. And again, they are entitled to their opinion. If they think Sayers is a poor appointment and Wilder should still be it, they're entitled to that view. But to want him to fail and to hope that Sheffield United, or whatever context it is that they're doing it, that's not a fan, is it? That's not a fan of the club. That's a Chris Wilder fan. And don't get me wrong, I am a Chris Wilder fan. But first and foremost, I'm a Blade, as is Chris Wilder, by the way. So to want Sayers to fail, to prove yourself right that he was a poor appointment, wow, absolutely.
Can we please let's have a look at least
let him have a competitive game or any sort of game.
And I ain't saying that it's not going to. It's football. It happens. Sometimes you're successful. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you make a bad call on a manager. Sometimes you make an amazing call on a manager.
Yeah.
At least give him the chance to start and like get his players and give him. Let's have a look at it. Like first blades, please. I mean, I know I'm not telling everybody that, because I know that most people are like, yeah, some of us were disappointed Wilder lost his job. We've got to move past that now, and we've got to look forward with what we've got. Because what's the point in dwelling on something that, and we just don't know how it's going to turn out. This guy might take us to the next level. He might he might do. He might go, the wheels might fall off and he might be gone by Christmas. It's happened before. Slav was a good example. And he had more, what some people would say would be more caliber, was more proven at the level, was more of a safer bet, if you want, I guess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work. It works for some managers at some clubs where they're amazingly successful. They go to another club, it doesn't work. And that's football. But we've at least got to give them a chance. And yeah, you're wasting your breath and everyone's time and energy if you're going to put stuff like that on. We haven't even seen him take a training session or. No one's seen it.
He had a press conference. We haven't seen it, have we?
Nothing. And it's like, oh, rubbish. Yeah.
Why have we got this guy in? Why have we got him in? What a lot. It's his fault,
just give it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what we're dealing with. It could be the best football we've ever seen. We'll be sat here with big cheesy grins at Christmas, going, "Gosh, what a guy! What a team!"
The ideal is that we're sat here in 2 years' time, trying our best to keep hold of him, because he's taken us up to the Prem. He's kept us up in the Premier League, and somebody like Valencia's come call. We've talked about this before, but we might be saying, "Don't leave us, Ruben. Sign a new deal at United." It could happen. It could happen. Particularly if, it looks like Wilder's going to move on. If Wilder's in the mix at Leicester, he might not get that job. He might get it. Who knows? He's certainly proven in the division. So he's moving on. Why can't we move on? It's not that is football. That is how it evolves. It don't mean he's not a blade, by the way. Right. It just means he's moving on with his career and his life, because that's what happens. So absolutely balmy. Max says, also, Jimmy, going to ask you the question again. Where is Barry? I'll come to that in a second. South Wales. Say again?
South Wales.
Where's Barry? Evening, lads. Says Ben, can see a few faces coming in this week. Got a funny feeling. Also, I know we have opinions, but I think some of our fans need to look forward and stop the negativity up the blades. Up all the rambles, like and subscribe. Martin says, evening 3MB, we must have the most fickle fan base in the country regarding choice of manager players. They put the shirt on their blades, so get behind them. Absolutely right. And Matthew says, evening, guys. Hope all is good. Hopefully we start to see more coming in the next week now. Really don't get our fans shooting down Tyler Bindon. Give him a chance. Come on. And Max, don't worry. Barry is looking very good, very close. Should be next through the door. So I've been told from a very good source. Matthew does actually have decent sources, to be fair to him. So I know a lot of people say that from a good source, all this sort of thing. But I know Matthew knows a couple of people close to the club as well. So, lads, what do we think about potential new faces? How are you feeling now? I know we haven't been on stream together, I don't think, since last week. Are you still calm and cool about it? I'm okay now. After watching the brilliant View from the Mountain with Lee Edridge, I'm a lot calmer than I was. I did a stream the day before where I was sort of talking about getting a little bit twitchy that nobody had come in, as they hadn't at that stage. And Paul and Lee straight away, look, you don't have to know who the targets are. Look at these previous success stories in the Premier League, plucked out of obscurity, became a 30 million, 50 million, 100 million pound player. They can make a huge difference no matter where they're from. So even if it is a player out of nowhere, it can still really work. And there's loads of stories like that. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that we signed our first player on the 4th of July. That's the same time that Chris Wilder signed the first player for Sheffield United this time last season. And he'd been there already and knew his squad. So there's a lot to think about in terms of perspective. How are you feeling, lads, about transfers, time taken? Are we still calm? Are we good? How are we feeling?
I'm still calm. I think this one seems a bit, well, it's obviously a change of manager means a change of approach and a change of type of player. I think it's good that it shows that we're not just going AI. He knows Bindon, so I think that bodes well. sounds like other things are moving. I do like the idea of Barry. I hope that one happens. But more importantly, I hope he's recovered from that injury properly, because I think there's a real player in there.
It's a big concern into his injury. That's the only thing that hangs over him for me.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more excited if it happens. I'm a lot more excited than I am, no, because he's being injured. But there's always that concern when a player's had a long-term injury. We saw Harry Suter obviously out for a long time. Ollie Arblaster, there'll be similar questions over him, whether he's going to come back the same player, certainly initially.
Yeah.
So there is that to think about, but it's an exciting signing in a position that we clearly are focused on improving. He's certainly a more legitimate left forward than Gus Hamer. It screams that Gus Hamer is going to be pushed inside, which is exciting for a lot of Blades who've wanted to see him there for a long time. So I think all the jigsaw pieces feel like the one of the few criticisms I had about Chris Wilder, and I always try to be honest about it, but I didn't think we had balance in the squad last year. I don't think we had Raksaki as a right winger. We had Andre Brooks as a makeshift right winger who played his first season out there after coming through as a centre midfielder. The only real option we had on the left that we used on the left was Gus Hamer, even though we brought in Ben Broughton Diaz in January. You'd have thought, similar to this Barry thing that we're thinking now, well, Broughton Diaz will go on the left and Gus will come inside. It'll be great. Well, Gus stayed on the left and Broughton Diaz couldn't get a kick in his favoured position and ended up going out to the right wing. And he's not a winger. He's not, if he's going on his orthodox foot on the right, then he's going to go around the fullback more times than anything. And that's not his game. And I think it was a huge imbalance, really, in terms of the squad and how we were trying to play. And this feels a lot more calculated, a lot more structured in terms of the players that we're hearing about. And we don't hear many. Well, we do hear many, but in terms of solid links, we haven't heard too many solid names. Certainly not to the strength of this Louis Barry one. And I like it. I like it as a position that we're after left forward. I'm getting quite excited about the prospect of him potentially coming in, or somebody of that ilk coming in if we don't actually get Louis Barry himself.
If it's taking a long time, I really hope it's because we're talking to David Brooks.
Yeah, but Brooks is on the right, isn't he?
I know, but then we've got Barry on the left, Brooks on the right.
Can you imagine?
Oh,
Callum O'Hare in the 10, Gus and Arblaster in the 2. Oh my word!
Let's go.
I think it's a legitimate criticism from last season of Wilder's handling of our loans, not just the personnel that was selected, because I think that Broughton Diaz was a real obvious one for me based on what he'd done for us the other season in the Premier League. But when you've got him, you've got to use him because he's proven goals at the level, has had successful seasons where he scored a lot of goals. So yeah, it was especially in the system we were playing, it was almost tailor-made for him to go on that left-hand side, with Burrows hopefully bombing on beyond him and giving us that option out wide as well. You could argue that Rob Holding wasn't used or utilised in the way that we all expected with his pedigree and his performances. It was a little bit of a mystery to most of us that he wasn't used properly. We had Raksaki, whose numbers actually, despite the performances being very indifferent at times, his numbers were pretty good in terms of what he produced when he was on. And yeah, he was very inconsistent, but he would just disappear out the team, wouldn't he? And no one knew where he was. The two right backs proved to be, I mean, Gilchrist, you could argue, was a success at the start, but then Clark was nowhere near it for me.
No.
I didn't think he was a successful choice. And picking players for certain games at the end of the season, I just felt it was we couldn't guess what we were going to do with those players, and I think that's probably. It would have probably have annoyed the owners, because I would imagine, like I said, they probably paid a pretty penny for Holding to come in, and big wages for both him and Broughton Diaz, I would imagine.
He's possibly going to be the highest paid player at the club, isn't he? Second half of last season, and then he sat on bench.
Based on his age and his experience and where he's been, I would not be surprised at all if that was the case. And Diaz wouldn't have been cheap either, and they weren't used On the surface, when they signed, everyone's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And Raksaki for the loan fee that we paid as well. I think it were going to be up to £4 million at one stage. Whether we've hit all those, we're not sure. But the overall packages, all three will be similar money, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I mean, there's plenty of time to go in this window. Lots and lots of chat about Birmingham City. I know that they're trying to make a statement. They're trying to get under the skin of probably the contenders at the top of the division at this point. I mean, I know they'll say that's not true. They're just doing their business nice and early, and fair play to them for doing so. But I wouldn't be comfortable with just going alpha leather on buying everybody. It's got to be a considered approach, and you've got to give Sayers a bit of time to see what he's got and see what he wants to do with some of them. There might be some players who we fancy that he doesn't, that end up leaving the club.
I agree with that. I agree.
That's more feasible.
Were you upset about Tommy Doyle? Particularly thinking that Vinny's left now as well.
Well, I've said this all along. I felt Tommy Doyle would have given us something different to what we've now got. It depends what type of player he wants in there as well, because there might be a deal in place for somebody else. Who Alzate, for example, as that deep line player potentially coming into that. So yeah, it depends how he wants to go about it. We looked at some of the comparisons of players and potential players who may come in for Vinny the other night with Lee, and it kind of depends on what type of player you're after, because we looked at Loser as well, who's more of a playmaker rather than just a tackler. And yeah, maybe you've got to want to have one of those really if you and there's different players that would suit that particular role. McCann as well has been mentioned, hasn't he? So it's if you listen to the Preston supporters, they're saying things like he's great in the tackle, works all day, but he'll pass sideways and he'll give it to somebody else. And if that's what you want someone to do, then yeah, you can tailor it the way that you want it to. But I'd just rather him get the ones that he wants. And
he goes under the radar a lot, doesn't he? McCann apparently does a lot of the off the ball things really, really well. And then on the ball, where you expect, obviously, that's where you catch the eye. That's why he's not really talked about in wider circles, because he doesn't do the prettier things as well. Yeah,
and I would imagine that obviously with O'Hare and Hamer, you've got a little conundrum there about how you want to play. Because if you played them two in the middle, you'd need somebody a bit more like that, I'd imagine, to sit in and do some of the dirty work that they wouldn't necessarily do. You've still got Peck, you've still got potentially Brooks, who are going to play in there. You've still got Davis. So I did say the other day as well that it may be that midfield area is not our priority at the minute, because we are well stocked in that area, and these wide areas are somewhere that Brooks being one of them, him and Barry, and then for me there'd still be room to go and get another one or two potentially to play in those wide areas, because that's a real light. If that's how he wants to play it, so if he wants a central striker with the two wide men, we need quite a few in that position, potentially 4 across the squads. Yeah, we're quite well stocked in centre mid. We don't necessarily need the type of player that Vinny was.
No, I agree.
Some people may say we do. We'll wait and see, won't we? If we're planning on being in charge of football matches and dominating possession or high pressing, you might want a different kind of player altogether. So,
Ollie Norwood came in for Paul Coots, and he were a very different player, weren't he? And there were all successful pairings in the middle. However we went with that. So it doesn't have to be like for like. It's system dependent, isn't it? I suppose. Dave, what are your thoughts on missing out on Tommy Doyle?
Well, I was going to ask, what did we pay? What did Birmingham pay for him?
They've got him on loan with an obligation to buy him for 10 million if they go up, which we apparently were in the same discussions, and I would, without being too arrogant about us as a club, but I would say we're more likely to be promoted than Birmingham this season. We balked at the 10 million price tag apparently, and that's just paper talk. So
if that's true, I think I'll probably back us not going for it.
Okay.
And right. I think that's the one area of the pitch that we probably, apart from the goalkeeper, where we'll be focusing.
Well, we've still got Gus, who's likely to slot into that 2 this season. Yes, probably further forward, but one of the 2 rather than the 10. That's what a lot of the talk is. Obviously, all our blasters coming back from injury might not see him at the very beginning of the season, but Sidney Peck more than proved himself last year. Tom Davis is back in training, a really good player when fit. Obviously, it has to always be caveated with him, unfortunately, due to his previous issues. But you've also been an advocate of potentially thinking about Andre Brooks going back in there as well, which is his more natural position. I appreciate they're all, other than Tom Davis, possibly, they're all a lot more forward-thinking midfielders than Vinny was. But like Paul says, you don't necessarily have to get a like-for-like replacement. It can all be system-dependent. And, you know, our blaster could easily sit in that 6 as a Gus Hamer and Andre Brooks even got push on in terms of what would be a much more comfortable side for it. I wouldn't necessarily be an advocate of that, but you can play around with the system, can't you, in terms of that central midfield area.
I think we will sign someone. I do think
mid, to replace Vinny.
Yeah, because we even last season we brought Hamza in as cover for Vinny, and we'd got Blaster out injured. So obviously Hamza's gone back, Vinny's left, and Blaster may or may not be fit for the start of the season. So I do think we bring somebody in there. I just don't think they'll be focusing all their energy on it until they've sorted the more important positions out.
Okay.
And it gives him time to figure out, based on who else we get, how he wants to set up.
Yeah, it does. It does. Tom says, evening all, very optimistic about Tyler. My only worry is the potential of him having to fly to the other side of the world on international duty. We saw what that did to Suter last season, up the blades, up the ramp. A very good point. A very good point. Mark Meldrew says, good evening, gentlemen. Bindon through the door. Looks the type of defender we need. Very calm and composed. Hopefully more to come in the next couple of weeks. Feeling optimistic. Up the blades, up the ramble, up the Ruben Selles, up the positive Meldrew. I always stumble over that one because it's one of them that doesn't exactly roll off the tongue for me at the minute. Regarding Ian's question on chasing the same sort of players, so there's a question further up saying, are we all going to be shopping in the same pool as more teams move towards a data approach? It all depends on performance metrics, says Lewis. I imagine clubs look for the things that are important to their playing style. Absolutely right. Chris says, I'm still not convinced sacking Wilder is going to be an improvement. Time will tell. We need some statement signings to prove the owners are backing Sayers. Time will tell. It will.
Nothing wrong with that opinion. Yeah, nothing wrong with that opinion at all.
Man Mountain coming over much louder than you, Jim. I'll turn myself up then, rather than turn him down, because I know everybody wants to hear from him. Hang on. Oh, this might work. Oh, there we go. See if that's any better for you. Let me know. Hamer's already looking slim in Spain, says Scott, who does a lot of the research. Sponsor of Behind the Ramble, Sonny of Glasby's Pallets, says, evening, gents. I've been speaking with a few blades. I think he'll use Girona to see what gaps he's missing in the team, and then we'll see a few more rumours and signings in the coming weeks up the Ramble. Do we think he'll take that lot? Obviously, that will refine what he's thinking when he sees him out there. They'll start to be in full throttle training now as they go out to the training camp. Do we think that will be, that'll sort of cap it in his mind as to what he needs to do, or do we think things will already be underway? Because I'd be surprised if we're not already, the wheels are turning now, I would say.
I think there'll be lists of players, a list of players that he would have given to the board when he was offered the job. I also think we've had this before, and I don't want to. I thought it was Coots who a manager arrived and had put him on the transfer list or something,
Chris
and
Wilder.
and
and Kieran Freeman.
And then they changed their mind. They changed their mind on him, and then became stalwarts of the team and some of the best players in the team.
Absolutely right.
So I think he will have preconceived ideas. I think he will go in and tell them it's a completely clean slate. Everyone fights for their place. He knows who the talent is. He knows who he might have doubts about, and he will have a list of players that I'd imagine there's 3 or 4 that he said we need these guys 100%, and then obviously then he can assess what he's got. The likelihood of getting loan players in, it's good to get one in nice and early, I suppose. But like we've said before, a lot of these loan players will become available towards in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks because other clubs will be looking at their team, looking at their finalising their squads. So I think there'll be business done all the way to the finish line. I would expect now he is getting eyes on the players, talking to the players, understanding where their heads are and what they want to do. That there'll be some going, there'll be some that he doesn't fancy, and they might be trying to achieve a fee for. He'll probably want to sit down with Anel and see if he can get him to sign a contract. That'll be the next thing I'd imagine that he'll do. And if he says no, I believe that the business sense of them will go, right, we need to start getting in touch with agents and saying that he's available for transfer and things like that. So there's moving parts to it. There's going to be 2 or 3 that go, I believe, maybe even more. I also believe that there'll be some late loans that'll really excite us, and particularly in those potentially in those wide areas as well. I agree with some of them about the loan, in the fact that if he levels us up, then we take it for the season, like we did with Gibbs White, for example. But preferably, and I've said this already, in those key partnership areas of the pitch, like centre backs, I'd rather go up if we did manage to go up, and I know that's definitely not a given. If we did, I'd like to go there with 2 settled centre halves who know how to play with each other, or 3 settled, however he wants to play, who know how to play with each other, because that's where we were successful last time when we went up. And I don't like having to rebuild to go up like a lot of clubs are now. I mean, if you look at them, they're going to go and sign 7, 8, 9, 10 players, aren't they? A lot of them. And I just feel like you have to hit the ground running, don't you, in the Premier League? Because if you're not with it from day one, and you're not on the same page, and you don't know how each of us play, and then it's starting again, really. So the loan isn't perfect, particularly in that area for me. But if he is a level up, and he is what the Reading supporters, who I've got to listen to them, we trust the manager because he is the manager and he's been hired for a reason. But he's been really impressive to those Reading supporters, and the fans are usually a decent gauge of a player.
Is there anybody for either of you, really, this one? But is there anybody in the squad? You talked there about, Paul, about them all having a clean slate, and I think that's certainly usually the line that somebody comes in with. But with quick turnarounds and ins and outs as they are, it's unlikely that certain players are going to make the grade. But what do you think in terms of the future for people like Jamie Shackleton and Reece Norrington-Davis, who haven't been anywhere near it in recent times, either through injury or through coming back from injury, not being able to hit the ground running as we'd have all liked them to have done? Do you think there's any hope for players like peripheral players like that to potentially get in, or do you think those players in particular are, like Sidney Peck came through, didn't he, as an absolute revelation? I'm not asking you to predict that in terms of who could come out of nowhere, because it might be a breakout season for Ryan O'Neill, for example, or something like that. But of the players that we know a little bit about, do you think there's any? Jack Robinson's obviously the main one, which we've already focused on a little bit. But for the peripheral players, who says he's going to meet for the first time and see him in training, do we think, like Tom Davies might be a good example? He's not been able to nail down a place, mostly due to fitness issues, but he's probably been seen as like the third on, maybe we sit in the pecking order now, forgive the pun, but maybe he's seen as the 4th choice centre midfielder. But it wouldn't surprise me, for example, if Tom Davies were able to prove his fitness and became a starter in this side, because we know he's got that sort of capability. Are there any players that either of you think could surprise us from the players we know? I'm not asking you to predict the youth that might come through, because that's a shot in the dark. But Davies, maybe Shackleton and RND, do you think they're there for pastures new, whatever comes next now? Dave?
Yeah, I think those two, we will be very much in a position that we will listen to offers for.
You don't think there's a chance they pull it round and Reece becomes backup left back and McCallum moves on or anything like that? You don't think that's the case?
I feel like I'm being harsh on him, but no, I think they're probably.
I agree. It's just we've seen stranger things have happened, haven't they? That's probably.
On the Tom Davies thing, I'd love him to stay fit. I think he's absolutely brilliant, that lad. He's fabulous.
I think he's the one that you could. It wouldn't be a surprise if he nailed down a first team spot, would it? It wouldn't be a shock to people that have seen him play. I think the reason he hasn't had such a clear run has been his fitness, really. That's been the main thing. Paolo, any thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I feel that's it. Tom Davies has done it in flashes, hasn't he? And we know the pedigree where he's come from. He was a Premier, played all these games in the Premier League before he joined us, so he's obviously got something about him. Again, for us, he's an excellent squad player because he can come in and be as good as the guy that he's replacing. Has he got the physical capability? He hasn't proved that in the last sort of 4 or 5 years of his career to see out an entire season and become a main player for the team that he plays for, which is a shame because he showed a lot, didn't he? And he did a lot early on in his career as well. I think R&D is a funny one, Jim, because I remember sitting here with you early doors when we started coming on the Ramble, and I remember things being said and no fingers pointed, but I remember us, I think...
Point away, mate. I was a huge Reece Norrington-Davies fan.
Yeah, I think the fan base, there was a feeling that if he could get his act together and we could get him fit, that he'd be probably arguably our strongest defender. So I think with R&D, there is a little bit of, it hasn't gone right the last 2 years, definitely hasn't. And if it carries it, and if it even starts like that, you'd imagine the manager's going, well, we can't waste this time with it anymore. I think the thing with Shackleton is he hasn't proved it in a United shirt at all, in terms of, I can't recall a performance where I've gone, wow, he was really good today. And he hasn't had a great number of opportunities, but he was sort of a utility man at Leeds, wasn't he? He was in and out. But you got to remember, Leeds were one of the better sides in the division. So you think that there's a chance, but he just hasn't shown any real quality. I can't figure out where he fits in the side. I can't really figure out who he comes on for most of the time. It's like, what does he improve about this team? And I just, at the minute, there's no evidence to suggest that he could come in and become a starter for us at this present time. So there is in Tom Davies, there is a little bit. Sorry, Jim, flicking around with R&D. I think there is more potential there in that sense, but R&D is going to have to hit the ground properly running for him to be in consideration.
He didn't look anywhere near it last season when he were trying to come on the comeback trail. It's so unfortunate for Reece because there's definitely a player in there. I can hear an echo now.
But he wouldn't have had any match sharpness, Jim, either.
No,
so he didn't get any games together. He didn't get a proper pre-season. He didn't have what players need to. If you are coming back, you need a sustained period of time where you're getting minutes and you're getting, and he just didn't. He never got there really.
And I think people forget just how good a player he was when he was fit and firing, because he was on an upward trajectory. I know that we were in negotiations with Leicester at the time he broke down, and he ended up having 14 months out in the end. You know, when he sat down on the pitch and he's like looking up to the heavens. I think it was his second time that he'd broken down with a serious injury. And it was around November time. I can't remember which year it was. It all blurs into one for me because my head's all over the place sometimes. But £11 million were being spoken about for Reece. And we were negotiating a new contract with him at the time. And we were all delighted when he signed a new 3-year deal. And now, a lot of us, and this is the way of football, unfortunately, a lot of us would gladly wish him well on his way. And it seems so harsh and unfortunate. It's a little bit like the Ryan situation in a different way, but Ryan Brewster's United career was massively interrupted by injuries, and if he'd had a fit run at it, nobody knows how good he'd be. On that note, by the way, it looks like he has now gone. There was the kit man wishing him well on Instagram and all these sort of little things that you piece together and you think, well, that's probably that, isn't it? So the Outlaws just put an interesting comment here who says, Gus looks like he's on his way, unfortunately. I just hope we can replace him with a half-decent player. I don't think this is the case, Outlaw. I know I've been like a broken record with this one. I don't think Gus Hamer leaves Sheffield United this summer. I don't. That's partly due to people I spoke to early on in the window, which now may no longer be relevant because we know that these things change very quickly, but also gut feeling. I just don't think he goes this summer, and I'm strong on it. And I think that with Gus Hamer in the team, and we've all spoken about this as a trio before, if he does commit to Ruben Selles' way of playing in terms of fitness and discipline, he will drag us easily into the top 6 on his own. And if we can match some of his levels, or bring in the players that complement him, and like Paul was saying when we last spoke about the same thing, so we're not so reliant on that individual brilliance from Gus, and he can just pop up in the odd game, but not completely rely on him, we could have he was already the EFL Player of the Season, and we know that we didn't get the absolute maximum out of him, or certainly the majority of United fans will think that. So if you could get the maximum out of him, imagine what a player you've got on your hands. Lads, how are you feeling about the potential for Gus Hamer leaving United this summer?
We'll adapt if he does.
Do you think he does, though, Dave? Do you think he does?
Who knows? Who knows? I think it comes down to what the interested party, who they are, and
everybody's for sale at the right price, aren't they? But
do
you
also
seriously think we're going to sell him?
Well, I think from Gus's perspective, he might. If it's the right club for him, it depends on his, on his family and all sorts. We've said it before. These people are human beings, so it's not always just as straightforward as, if it was, I don't know, someone down south wants him, then he might not want to go all the way down south. But if Leeds come in, and offer the right money, he might think, well, I can commute there and not move my kid out of school. So, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But
look at Jim's face.
I know, look, it's the reality of it, isn't it? I mean, you think about where you could commute to. You've got quite a wide area. I hope another one. We obviously desperately hope that Gus stays. He's our best player, so I wouldn't be surprised either way. It's probably the sat on the fence.
It wouldn't surprise you if he left. It would surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me if he left. If a Premier League club came in, offered the right sort of money, and the location was okay for him, that he'd go, yeah, I want to go play the Premier League. Why wouldn't they? If the contract.
I'm not saying he wouldn't want it if it's on the table. I just can't see anybody getting near our valuation. I can't see it.
We don't know, but look, we don't know. We've no idea what the valuations are we? We just.
That's enough from you, Dave. Paul, what do you think, mate?
Committal, I know. Sorry.
I'm afraid it's not going to get much better, Jim, because I just feel like.
Are you the outlaw? Have you been typing like?
I'm not the outlaw. I'm not the outlaw, and I don't. Again, until someone's holding a shirt, there's so many people who may have really strong information. There's so many people who just make stuff up, and sometimes they hit a bullseye by guessing something that does end up happening. We know that Leeds United need players of his quality. They need a number 10. They are around the corner, Jim. So that sort of negates the narrative of his kid's happy, his family's happy. That sort of negates that a little bit, and it's kind of like it's about the money. So I think if there'll be an evaluation on his head, if someone turns around tomorrow and offers you the opportunity, Jim, to go and work for the BBC and do this, that, and the other,
I'll be here, mate. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
I will, of course I will. I'm not saying I won't do it on a contract basis.
Oh yeah, All right, Jim. All right. So okay. But someone comes in and says, bad example. Someone comes in and says, right, we're gonna double your money. You can have this, that, and the other. We're gonna pay you this signing on. We're gonna do that, and it is what it is, mate. It's football.
So does it mean I have to drive in Leeds? And if the answer is yes, I'd turn it down.
Right, Gus Hamer. Let's have a little think about it. So Gus Hamer left Coventry City for a rival in the same division.
No.
We know that we
were in Prem.
Oh, sorry, for the Prem. Sorry. But we ended up being a rival in the same division. He left Coventry City. He loved Coventry, didn't he? He still went back there to watch and play. He loved Coventry. But he left to go to Sheffield United to go in what was definitely going to be a real struggling side in the Premier League, and that was obvious when he signed for us. That was really obvious, and he still came, didn't he? So, if somebody and we probably doubled his money as well, and some more. And if someone came in and did the same thing, he's probably got one big move left in him at his age and where he wants to, and it's loyalty goes so far, and unfortunately, mate, we've seen a lot of our best players over the years who love the club, legends of the lane. They go. because they've got a window of time that they need to fulfill the potential. If he's the best player in the division, he knows it, he's been told it, he's got a trophy that says it on it, then he's probably thinking, I'm too good for this level. And if the right offer comes in, mate, we're like I've said it before, we're like nearly every other club in this country. If someone comes on and taps you on the shoulder and says, "Come over here, we'll give you this, that, and the other," they go, and that's how it works.
I get that. I don't think anybody's going to match our value. And I know you're right in terms of we don't know what the club's valuation is of him. But you've got to think that we know what he can bring to us, but we also know what hinders him from reaching those levels. And is a club going to come in and pay 20 million quid for him?
Somebody's come in and paid 30 million for Joe Bellingham, and I know that.
Yeah, but you've got it.
No, yeah, I know it's a different scenario, younger player. If I was going to the Premier League and someone said to me, "Right, we've got to survive this season," who do you want? Do you want Joe Bellingham or Gus Hamer? You can't tell me anyone says, "Oh, for next season, I want Joe."
No, but
Bellingham.
As an investment, you'd take Joe Bellingham, wouldn't you?
Why?
Because the ceiling and the longevity is much higher.
Okay, but if you but your raison d'etre is to survive in the Premier League. That's your raison d'etre, and that's your reason for being, isn't it? The only thing they need to do, they're not interested. Oh, if Jobe's good, then we'll have him in 3 years as one of the best players.
Yeah, but that's why he's gone to a top end team, isn't it? That's why he's not gone to a struggling Bundesliga side or a struggling Spanish side or a struggling English side.
I think
Joe Smith, he wouldn't have gone to Dortmund, in my view. I don't think he's fit to lace Gus Hamer's boots.
Which is a different conversation.
And I think Hamer could go to 10 of the 20 Premier League clubs and get and think about commanding a spot. I really do. So it is what it is, Jim. I don't want him to go. I think we need him. I'll be intrigued. The thing about him this season is, where's he going to play? Because I think that there's positions. Obviously, he started on the left for us last season. We're talking about him potentially set. We don't know. We're guessing. We think Sayers might drop him into the 2 in midfield. I said before, I could see him playing as a second striker and just being given a role where he just runs it. He just drops into spaces, picks the ball up.
I'd love that.
Yeah, like a false 9 or whatever. I could see that. It wouldn't be.
But that's not too dissimilar from the 10, though, isn't it? And does that sort of negate Callum O'Hare a little bit?
So I think O'Hare could the way that he pressed. I think he could be dropped back slightly as well. I don't think O'Hare's necessarily just has to be behind a striker. I don't think it works that way. And I think it's interesting. It's interesting to see what Sayers plans for him, and if Sayers gets to see him part of his squad. It's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting time. But I know that these Americans, I know there's a lot of fans who are scared of asset stripping and losing all your best players and then having nothing and just going on with what you got. It doesn't work like that. It's people talking about Brentford, for example, who are hemorrhaging managers, players, etc. They will be reinvesting a lot of that cash, and there will be 1 or 2 gems in there as well. And I've got a feeling we'll be talking about 2 or 3 new. Very good, Jim. Very good. 2 or 3 new players who we might think are massive, massive success stories for us this season that we don't even know about. Hey. And I wouldn't be shocked if I'd never seen any of them play before.
That's where I am. And to be fair, the club are posting on social media as if, because there were posts today that said like new boys in action, and it were Bindon and Ukaki. So to me, it looks like Ukaki will be classed as a first team player. Whether that actually comes to fruition as the season starts, but that's certainly how he's being portrayed on social media as the first summer signing, which he is technically. But I just assumed he were a development boy, probably wrongly. But we'll see. And Ukaki might be one of them, Paul, that completely comes out of nowhere and surprises us. The beauty of it is we've no idea. So we'll have to wait and see.
Do you know all these development signings as well? They could be Sayers signings. They could have, as soon as they arrived at Sheffield United, they might have gone and spoke to Ruben Selles and says, "We're lining you up for the start of the summer." And who should we go and get? We do not know. We have not got a Scooby. No, but I know that they must have come from somewhere, and somebody's chosen to go and get them, haven't they?
Yeah. Paul asking about replacement for Vinny. I know we've touched on that, pal. I think you asked that prior to us covering it. James says, mine's the same on Robinson, get him an Uber. I've highlighted James's comment here because he's just become a Platinum Rambler. Thank you, James, for your support, pal. I have messaged you on Patreon to say if you want to get into the group, then there should have been a link sent to you in the welcome email. But if you need any help getting in, just drop us a message and I'll sort you out. Statman Jack says, evening, gents. Looking forward to the coming weeks. Hope the lads enjoy this week to gel and work hard together. Looking forward for the new kit and more signings. Dave, you're a bit of a kit man. I don't know if you both are, but any thoughts on, or are you excited for the new kit? Have you heard anything about the new kit that you're able to reveal? You sometimes do a bit of digging in and around what it's going to be like. You were the one that sort of told us that it was due to be potentially a new kit, and now that's fallen through, and Area's going to still be doing it, we think, and all that sort of stuff. What's your thoughts, mate? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's going to be red and white.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Right, we'll get to some comments.
I wouldn't get too excited.
Really?
Yet.
Is it as game changing as Leeds United's new kit? Have we all seen that? It is exactly the same shirt as last year. I cannot see any difference at all. Is that what we've got to look forward to? Do we think?
I think we might have a white kit to play next week. At this rate.
I thought the club handled the kit thing last year fairly well, because I think that people had a big problem with the cap, and I think the way that they went about selling it as a plain top and giving you the option of adding the sponsor on, I believe that people will prefer the sponsor just because it's less. It's less. Well, I don't think it'll divide opinion in the same way as the cap, the waving cap. But we'll see.
Waving cat. I know.
What was it? Maneki, yeah.
One of them Chinese waving cats.
Well, that's what it were. Yeah, in my head, but it was the lucky cat. But my lad loved it. But he was 10, wasn't he? So allowed to.
Yeah.
We didn't have much luck through the season. Let's be right.
What do you think? He's only 10.
Yeah, but he's allowed to like daft stuff like a waving cat on your shirt, isn't he? So he's
look. But I bet most of the kits that are sold are kids ones, aren't they? So there's a.
Yeah, but they did it right by not saying this is the only kit that's available. They said
it was great.
Because the plain one was great, wasn't it? Yeah, it's
really
nice.
Me now, and that's
nice.
the reason I bought it. I wasn't going to buy it, and then again, it didn't have a sponsor on it.
And the design is nice. It's the quality that annoyed me a little bit, man. Yeah, I thought so.
Wow.
How it is. It's rubbish.
It's rubbish.
It was, yeah.
Dino says, to be fair, I'm just going to whiz through a few more comments now, and then we'll start to wrap up, lads, because we're going to try and not cap it, but we don't want to have to go on for. We've gone well over 2 hours last few times we've done these, and that won't be happening on a regular basis, because otherwise you'll get sick of seeing us. To be fair, every club's got vindictive clowns like that, and you did right to call out the homophobia, boys. Thank you, pal. Mogga says, Anel has a ceiling to be a £20 million defender. $5 million is doable for all. So agrees with you, Man Mountain there.
Yeah, it was pleasing to make Dave eat his words about the Bogle thing. It was good.
Yeah, I tell you, love that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Dave did retreat back into his box after that. After that point, it's fair to say. Bindon came across as a first-class young man, kind, positive, respectful, smart, who has to come to this country young and make a success of himself. That's inspiring. End of. Absolutely right. Well said, pal. Matt said it before, 18-19 promotion came a whole host of new fans that don't know the bad times and don't know when they've got it good. We're Blades, not Wilders. And as a club, we've never had it better. I think there is that. Oh, he's here. Go on, finger in the air.
I do. Okay. For all the saleable assets and future prospects and have to be under 25 and all this rubbish. Personally, I would like somebody who's been around and seen it and done it a little bit to partner a 20-year-old at centre back. I don't want two kids at centre half. I'll say that now.
I know we spoke about him because I think Mepham could be a good partner for Bindon. Sorry, my phone's just going ding, 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 ding. It was bothering me at this time.
It sounds like Crazy Frog. Ding, 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 ding. That's Platinum Group for you, mate. That's what happens. Justin says, Paul mentioned the Wilders' usage of loans. Can we discuss the right-back position last year? Sariki, Shackleton, Clark, Gilchrist and Chowdhury for one position. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that there wasn't a clear methodology in what we were doing with some of the signings. This is certainly not a Wilder bashing at all, but it's things that we questioned at the time, and it's still fair to question now, and it sort of might give people a bit of balance when they're thinking about a new approach, that there might be a little bit more. It sometimes, I think, and I don't mean just Chris Wilder, but sometimes I think signings can be opportunistic, and you're a bit like a magpie. Oh, a shiny new thing over there. Harry Clark's available. Let's go grab him. Well, we've got Alfie Gilchrist, and we've got Femi Sariki, and Hamza Chowdhury can play there. We've already got him. Why are we got Harry Clark as a signing? Not just because he wasn't that great, but as a signing. Why did we bring a fourth right back in at that stage of the season? I didn't understand it. It made no sense to me at all. And the only thought process we were thinking was, well, he must be thinking about moving Alfie inside then as more centre-back cover. No, none of that either. I don't think Alfie once played centre-half. I might be wrong. I can't remember, but it just, I think it's worth mentioning, Justin, to be fair. And those sort of things are a worthwhile reminder to people that it was a brilliant results-based season last year. But it wasn't all. We sort of got there in a different kind of way, I would probably say. Lee says if we lost any or all of Adam Davis, Shackleton, Reece Norrington-Davis, Tom Davis, and Andre Brooks, we would significantly weaken the first 11. All right, okay, I didn't know where you were going with that. Or would we significantly weaken the first 11? It's harsh, I know, especially Brooks and Reece Norrington-Davis, but winning doesn't respect sentiment. Interesting. I'll probably pick one or two maybe out after this, but this might be our last comment because I think it's a really good one to talk on. So, out of these players, I'm going first with this because Adam Davis, we need a backup goalkeeper, and I'm not enamoured with Adam Davis. I wouldn't have loads of confidence, and this is just me being honest. If we had to rely on if Cooper picked up an injury and missed 3 or 4 games, I wouldn't be overly confident with Adam Davis in goal. So maybe that in itself tells you we need an upgrade there. Shackleton and Reece we've already discussed. You can't get rid of Tom Davis. I think he pushes for a start this season. If all goes well with his fitness, I think he could be a real player for us this year. And Andre Brooks, I wouldn't be selling him, put it that way. If he went out on loan because we had significantly strengthened the positions that he is available for, like Paul's talking about, if we want real impact on the wings, we might be looking at 4 players. We might be. Certainly 3, and then a Ukaki to come on as an option, or somebody else that can play in that sort of position. So Andre Brooks going out on loan would not be the worst deal in the world for me. But you can't, in my opinion, you can't let Tom Davis go. Paul, talk to me about these 5 that Lee's talking about here.
Yeah, I think in absolute truth, I think if all 5 went and they were replaced, I don't think it'd be a massive problem.
Do you think they're all expendable to a degree?
I think they are. I think Brooks has had a very, very strange season last season. It depends if somebody comes in with money for him. I like Brooks as a player. I think there's still more to come from him. I agree that a loan might be the answer for him if he's nowhere near the first team. But I think if someone came in and said, right, we'll give you 3 or 4 million for him and a 20% sell on, I think the club might go, well, do you see him as part of your first 11? Do you see him as part of your first 15? And there's a chance that Sayers doesn't. And if he doesn't, it's a business, and it depends on what's what. And Tom Davis hasn't really, despite him coming in and doing well at times, he's injury prone, and he was before he arrived, and he has been since he got here.
Big wage as well.
And he's been on big wages. And if someone says, right, because I sort of read something bizarre about him, Everton coming back for him. I read that this week. I know that's just stratosphere and gone for it, maybe. But if someone did come in and say, right, we want him, again, it's a business, and and they've got to allocate the funds effectively, and it might be that we get 2 younger players in for the same money as what we're paying Tom Davis, and one of them goes on to be one of our best players. It's a bit of a game, but all of those lads there that he's mentioned, they're very, very they're not part of. They won't be part
replaceable.
I don't think they'll be part of anybody's first 11. So if you said, "Oh, what's your first 11 for the first game of the season?" I don't think any of those make it in the team.
Yeah, that's probably fair to say. Davey boy, thoughts on these guys?
I think the only one I could make an argument for would be a fully fit and firing Tom Davis might start.
I don't even think he starts in anybody, like Paul said, in anybody's straight away out of the gate 11.
If
I think he can force his way in this season because he's good enough.
I think if Blaster's not back, I think, and honestly, I think if he was fully fit and firing, I'd be making a very late call and working out whether I was going to go with Tom or Peck for the first game. I think he's that good when he's fit.
Okay,
just looks different gravy. But similarly, I think I'd listen to bids on all of them.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's replaceable ultimately, aren't they? But it's interesting to think that because that might be the case. We might be listening to offers for all of them. Riff says, "I like Davis despite his shocking dress sense. If he was young and didn't take up a registration slot, I would keep. But he's played 883 minutes in 2 seasons. His wages for 4.5 games a season. Yikes! Yeah, that is a shocker, really, when you think about it. 4.5 games a season." Nicholas says, "At the end of the day, everyone goes to work for the money. It's a job, and you go where it betters you and your family. Don't think loyalty comes into it." I think it plays a little part of it, Nicola. I'll be honest. I don't think you can completely write it off, but ultimately, it's usually superseded by cash. So, Nicola, agreeing with you boys there that if we do get a big offer for Gus, he will want to go. If they are doubling his money and what have you, doesn't mean he will go. I'll just chuck that little caveat in there as well. And we will go with a last comment from Mr. Vancouver. "The Blades Ramble can proudly announce we're taking on new Platinum Ramblers. So if you bleed red and white and like to talk about the Blades and so much more, hit the link below and join us up the Blades, up all the Rambles." Thank you, Mr. V. Absolutely incredible. Lads, anything else you want to add to tonight's proceedings before I let you go to bed?
No, just I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks. It's really excited me seeing the little clips that the club are putting together. I want more of it. I want some of the longer ones as well with the training sessions and practice games and bits and bobs. I want to see that because that's really reignited that it's happening again. And each time
did
we
that
come
for me
on
a bit as well. Sorry to interrupt, but the fixture list did that for me. It sort of got me up for it again and got me sort of thinking it's coming now, and you can sort of count down to opening day, can't you? So I'm with you though. I want them training videos, bit of behind the blades, seeing new player signings where you do I want to see how Tyler Bindon did on his signing day and stuff like that. Who he met, we love all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm well up for that.
Yeah, I like to see that, and I just want to say as well, best wishes for Vinny Souza following last season, and hope he goes on and does really, really well for himself. It's going to be exciting. So every week we come on, hopefully, I think we might be talking about departures or new bodies in and new players and exciting things to talk about. And back with the football fever. I hate it when it's not on.
I know, mate. I know. We're not far away now. Not far away.
I know.
Davey boy.
Are either of you doing any of the friendlies?
Yes, I'm doing York. I'm going to have a look at Rotherham as well. Then I'm away for second too.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm going to try. I think we'll probably do Rotherham. York, I'm potentially in Harrogate in the afternoon with work. So if I can get Aaron dropped with me, then we may go. I'm not driving all the way back from Harrogate to pick him up to drive all the way to York. So it'll all depend on.
I might do York just for nostalgia purposes because that was Ronnie's first game.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Yeah, so as a baby in arms. wife was on a hen do in York. It just so happened the Blades were on against York, so it might just be a nostalgia trip for me and round York to York. But yeah, I'll have a look at the schedule, mate, and see what I can get my card signed.
7 o'clock kickoff, Paul.
What is it?
7 o'clock kickoff, which is the most stupid time ever for
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
a match. But,
might be doable.
yeah.
Okay.
So.
Getting home earlier as well.
You both at one of them because we've not been together since Wembley, have we? So
No, I know. Let me know if you manage to both get tickets for York, and we'll make sure we meet up beforehand if we can. And then I haven't booked my Rotherham tickets yet, so if you fancy that as well, let me know. So coming up on the channel tomorrow, We'd Never Stop, as you know, it's the return of Andy the Blade. He has not been on for a month. He's going to be making a monthly appearance from now on. That's all I could get him to agree to. Plus, he's never in the country. But so much has happened since he's been on. What does he feel about Ruben?
I believe you called his show Talking Sense. Oh.
He wouldn't have anything
Is that
else.
how you buttered him up to get him on here? Is that what it were?
Well, what am I going to call it? Talking rubbish? And then he's not going to come on for that, is he?
Well, no, but I know what you mean. What do I call him? The sensei. Talking sense. The sense.
Hey.
That's what you got to call him tomorrow.
Okay, I'll call him that just for you, pal. Just for you. So I want to say thank you to you both for joining me tonight. Very much appreciated. As always, you'll see us pretty much every Sunday night. It will be in the season anyway, most of the time, but you know, we've all got summers to have as well. So I'll see you very shortly, lads. And thank you to everybody for your comments. Sorry we can't go through them all, but that's how it's going to be for these sort of shows going forward. When it's a solo stream or we're doing a watch along, I'll make sure I'm trying to get every single comment in, but I think we would still be here for another hour if I read through all the comments. They're very much appreciated. I'll get to read them after the stream. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards.
up the blades.
Shout